Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Zenless Zone Zero reaction 2 this week because I had an extra day in here that I needed to fill with something, and I figured why not get to another Zenless song. So today I'm going to be listening to 60% Fantasy, which this, as I said in the comment that I actually replied to, this is a great example of why the Chinese names are so important to be given to me in the comments if you want a high-quality version for me to react to, because this song was translated on 3 different translator apps as 60% Reverie, which while Reverie is a synonym for fantasy, it's things like that end up getting muddled and confused between an entire sentence that may be the title of a song. So that is why I've been having such a hard time trying to find the real translation. And if I look up the exact thing, it doesn't appear in any way in English. It only appears in Chinese. And if I look up the Chinese word for fantasy, it does not give me reverie, which is what this wants it to be. So it's really confusing. And as much as I would love to be able to just know better, I don't. And a lot of the times these titles are just not translated well between translator apps. And while I do have people I can ask, I was actually going to ask somebody tonight, but they were not available, so I couldn't ask them, and I ended up just having to work it out myself, even though that in this case, again, pretty easy to do compared to some others. And also apparently there's like variant forms of this theme. I'm not sure if they just changed some aspects of it, if they're played at different parts in the game. I'm just going to be listening to the first one, the one that is just 60% fantasy without the other words in there, because I'm sure they're variants for some other part of the game, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to listen to the main one. If you guys want me to listen to that one, let me know. But until then, let's just get to the song, shall we? Let's go. Ooh. Ooh. That's a fat bass line. Ooh. Get him with the funk. Ooh, that's a jazz chord. Jazz fusion? Ooh, God, this is smooth as butter. I see what the comment was talking about. Definitely a little bit more funky than jazz fusion I'm used to hearing, but I get it. Oh, and they left the buzz from the guitar in the mix too. They didn't take that out. These are the details I would miss on a lower quality rip, I'm sure. I love hearing that static buzz underneath everything. Nice white noise on the floor. Love that. Little step up and down. Having some fun on the bridge. Ooh, 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 ooh. Get him. This pianist is having a really fun time. Fade it out. Hell yeah. All right, I see what they were talking about. Definitely like a jazz fusion sort of thing going on there. So this song is fun because I get to mention blue notes again. I love talking about blue notes, which are of course a thing in blues and jazz especially. And basically all they are is changing one of the notes to be slightly atonal compared to the rest of the standard key this is in. So I think this song is in G minor. I did play around with it a little bit and I'm pretty confident in that. But this song, obviously, because it's jazzy and has that jazz feel to it, you gotta have a couple of blue notes. All that basically is what I said. It's changing one or two in the scale, sometimes more. It depends on how much of the scale you actually utilize, to mostly add some accents in the song. Like a lot of the time in jazz, you hear blue notes as those notes that are right next to each other that just sound kind of cool and jazzy. That's kind of what a blue note is. Whenever you hear that thing happen where you're just like, ooh, it's jazzy, that's a blue note, and that's kind of why it got that name. And of course, a minor key being utilized is very much a jazzy, bluesy thing to do. Minor keys kind of have that more subtle vibe to them, a little bit more somber, and you feel a little bit more down when you hear them. So things that make you feel blue, maybe.
Please laugh.
You know, like, that's the overall vibe of jazz and all the fusion stuff around it. They take that central idea and just expand upon it. So stuff like this that's a little bit more fusion inspired and has a little bit more energy to it at times, but it's still very clearly jazz and pretty recreational jazz. It's very smooth, kind of almost freeform with how they're just kind of playing around, and most of this song is solos, even though it's only a little under 3 minutes long. Pretty much the entire thing kind of just feels like a freeform solo section, which is an absolute vibe, and that's exactly the root of what jazz is at its soul. But the point of that is that minor keys are very common for jazz because they want you to feel relaxed, a little bit more down, not necessarily sad all the time. Like, this song felt pretty relatively upbeat, but using a minor key, you're able to have a lot more access to minor chords, which help build out that basis of jazz and allow you to play around with that a little bit more, as well as have access to those blue note options. Because when you're doing that in a major key, while it's definitely possible, it's not like you can't do blue notes in a major key, they just feel a little bit more at home in a minor key because everything you're listening to is already a little bit more down in tone, and it feels a little bit more at home just nestling something that's a little atonal in there that doesn't feel like it belongs because the rest of the song is already kind of pulling you in that direction. And funk obviously being a part of that, it fits right in. It feels very at home. A lot of funk obviously inspired by the jazz movement as well. They kind of just went their own way. Funk is, if you want to call it that, kind of a blend of jazz and rock and roll that just kind of became its own thing. You're basically doing rock sounds with jazz ideas. So that's what funk became, and that's what this song kind of feels like. But funk tones being used in that, having that sound of the more funk guitar and definitely a more funk bass, because honestly, while they were playing something that I could hear on like a double bass, a standing bass, they were definitely not playing it on one, and it still had that electric guitar sound to it, but it just felt so good. Again, that hum, that soft hum underneath everything, that fuzziness underneath this whole song, very much a funk characteristic, especially the more chilled version of funk. You'd even hear it in some stuff like Jimi Hendrix would have that sound in there a lot too, just because the recording equipment didn't know how to filter that out as well. It was a lot harder back then, but people reintroduce it. And as always, Zenless is just really knocking it out of the park, having the vibes that they're going for. This sort of relaxed yet somehow still energetic. It doesn't put you to sleep. It makes you want to listen, but it also just chills you out. Even in their most aggressive, most upbeat stuff that I've heard so far, I still kind of want to just relax, sit back, and enjoy the music. So they're doing a really good job at nailing this aesthetic, and I think a lot of that just has to do, obviously, with the composers knowing exactly what they're going for and having a true respect for those genres to be able to write in them so well and allow for those little things in there like the fuzziness in the guitars to exist and not have to remove them because they don't need to be. It's part of the aesthetic. Leave it alone. And overall, that's my favorite thing about all this game's music so far, is that they just know when to leave things be and not overproduce it. But I think think that's about all I got to say on this one, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you have anything else you want me to get to, again, please, if you want me to hear little things like the fuzziness in the guitar and hear those details and be able to comment on them, please let me know what the Chinese names of these titles are, because some of them just do not translate even close to what people are saying their English titles are, and all of the English title uploads I've seen are not English versions of these uploads. They're just rips from the game that tend to miss that sort of fidelity in the audio, so please include the Chinese title so I can actually hear what it is. And of course, otherwise, if you just enjoyed this video and you want to follow me and support me for more in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!